Did you just mix all like that?
Greetings, my villagers. I hope all is well with you. Every day there's a new excitement. We're going to talk about that later, but right now I want to thank my crew. I want to thank Sheila, producer, Juanita. I want to thank my promo crew, the Chastity, Chloe, Halim, and Elijah. And of course, my engineer, King Norm. And of course, my co host, neither is at the studio, but they are with me at home. My co-host, Queen Rose Moore, is with the children from the home school, Williams A. Cap. And they will be zooming in, and my youth co-host, Prince Elijah Stephen Shivers, is participating in the presentation. And I have with me here in the studio, host of the program they will be presenting today, under the name Aunt Maymay's Den, and they will be presenting today under the name Aunt Maymay Den, and who was their first instructor and now is their ancestor. And of course, you all know me. I'm Ruby Williams Shivers, your unapologetic amateur, still looking for experts in Africanism. Now, most of you know when I started this podcast almost 2 years ago, my main objective was to find a way to restore us to our greatness, make us aware of the damage that stripping had impacted on our lives, on our very essence. But now, with the new sheriff in town, the DEI hire that's running the country these days, we are going to have to plan a sort of different approach, a two-pronged approach, as a matter of fact, for the village survival. I just learned that this DEI hire is profiling Haitian to be returned to Haiti. Do you know what that means? You may think it has nothing to do with you. Have you looked in the mirror lately? I looked this morning, and I looked just like the Haitian lady that tends to my brother. My pastor said Sunday, slavery is contagious, meaning they come for one, they will come for you. They don't ask you if you are Haitian. They just act and ask questions later. That's why it is important that we keep our eyes and ears open. And as the late, great ancestor Joe Madison always said, what are you going to do about it? We are going to become more vigilant, more active, more informed. There's so much information out here now that one needs never to be uninformed. And as I misinformed, but never uninformed. And as I get it, I'm going to pass it on to you. Because I'm convinced that when the scripture says, my people will perish for lack of knowledge, it's speaking directly to us. Now, some may have different interpretation of that scripture, but for me in my house, I'm going to claim it, referring to us. It speaks so succinctly to our situation. I don't know any other group that fits that proclamation as well as we do. Now, my pastor preached a sermon Sunday, and his subject was, I'm not the one you want to play with. And of course, he was coming from a faith-based perspective. His protection and armor, if you will, is divinity inspired. However, for other of us, not other of us, I'm saying, but for those who are not, the non-religious folks, but Africa-centric warriors, there should be some information going forth, not from an individual point of view, but from the village concept. We're not the one you want to play with. See, I read my history. Even as early as the 20th century, I see where the Panthers, in the other centuries were Nat Turner, the Mumars. So it is in the blood. We just got to reclaim it. Not arbitrarily, but as we historically have done on a macro level. Divest ourselves from the crew, go back to the village, go back to our neighborhood, create communities, enable our people to become self-sufficient again. This time they can't bomb us out. We know the deal. But for right now, I have a bit of information that is good for the ears. We need to know what others know already. That's why they are afraid of us. Now, I know I'm going to play this piece for me And this is the kind of information I will be sharing periodically. So when I get it, you'll get it. Each one teach one is the motto. So if we can have that piece.
But the truth is, I do not fear what may come. I only fear leaving this earth without fulfilling what I was sent to do. It was not a path with guarantees, but it was the only path that allowed me to face the people with clean hands and a clear heart. I do not seek to be remembered as a hero, only as a man who refused to betray his people, as a son of the soil who chose. Before I begin my speech, I would like you to say some prayers for me in the comment section. A sincere prayer from your heart is all I need. We must conquer. I was never afraid of death, not because I am a soldier, but because I am a servant of something greater than myself. The fear of death ends the moment you find something worth dying for. They ask me if I think about it, if I think about what might happen if I go too far, if I speak too loudly, if I resist too strongly. But the truth is, I do not fear what may come. I only fear leaving this earth without fulfilling what I was sent to do. It was not a path with guarantees, but it was the only path that allowed me to face the people with clean hands and a clear heart. I do not seek to be remembered as a hero, only as a man who refused to betray his people, as a son of the soil who chose. Before I begin my speech, I would like you to...
All right, that's the brother that came on before. That's my fault because that was the second one. This is the one that I would be bringing under the segment called News from Africa. This young brother, that's the kind of person we're going to be looking for our liberation for our liberation also. But this brother his name is Captain Abraham I hope I pronounce this correctly. Terari, I think it is. But this brother is heavy. He is the type of warrior that we've known, we've been used to. We read, we know our history, we know of those who have brought us through. Prior to the 401 years we was over here, we felt that way. We did that. We sustained ourselves through that kind of effort, and that was the brother from Africa. So now we're going to bring another segment on. This was the one supposed to be played first, but it was my fault, Norm. I gave you the wrong one first. So this is just information, general information, and it's what we will be doing each time. We will be bringing it to you. We want you to know what we know. Ready? Yes.
Unwritten truths before the boats, the black presence in America they tried to erase. People were already here. The Olmecs left stone faces with broad noses and full lips, undeniably African. In 1311, Mansa Abu Bakari of Mali sent 2,000 ships west, centuries before Columbus. They didn't come in chains. They came as explorers, scholars, and navigators. Even Spanish conquistadors documented seeing black people already living in the Americas. Tribes like the Yamasee, Choctaw, and Washita held black blood long before slavery began. This wasn't just survival, it was civilization, alliance, culture. So why were they erased from the books? Because if they could rewrite who you were, they could control who you'd become. They want you to believe you only arrived in chains. Not that you crossed oceans long before them, not that you helped build, teach, lead. They buried that truth and sold you a script. But the ancestors never forgot. And now, we're remembering you weren't born lost, you were made to forget. Unwritten truths. The real story didn't start with slavery. It started long before the boats.
They saw the fire rising. Black Wall Streets, black banks, a separate economy, independent, unstoppable. But they knew bullets alone couldn't stop us, so they got smarter. They sold us a new lie: integration. If we eat together, if we shop together, if we learn together, we'd finally be equal. But that was never the goal. The goal was control. Kill black businesses, kill black schools, kill black unity. Because when we had our own, we had power. When we spent with us, we built empires. So they used our pain, recruited our pastors, bought off our politicians, gave platforms to entertainers to sell integration as progress. And now you go to Walmart instead of your brother's store. You trust Amazon more than your own people. That's not equality. That's economic genocide. They didn't integrate to include us. They integrated to dismantle us from the inside. Quiet, permanent, strategic. The revolution didn't die. It was redirected into the arms of our enemies, wearing smiles, suits, and church robes.
The Black Knowledge app is now available on the Apple and Google Play stores.
Unwritten truths before the
Excellent.
votes.
That's the kind of information that we will be bringing to you because it's there, it's out there, and we're not going to perish. You know, my people will perish for lack of knowledge. We're going to get the knowledge as it is brought to us. And I'm just encouraged by it because it's out there and it's needed. That's the kind of thing that will help us clear the cobwebs from our brain. I want us to begin to read a lot more too in terms of some of the books that's already out there, like Dr. DeGraw. I talk about her a lot, the post-traumatic slave syndrome, information in there that will clarify for us some of the questions that we've had about ourselves. And honestly so, if you see something, sometimes we don't, not sometimes, we generally, particularly those of us who are not aware, don't look beyond our circumstances. And what we see in our circumstances, they say, number one, we're the least in education, we're the least in health, we're the least in wealth. So we look at that, sometimes we wonder why. There was a brother on yesterday on Facebook, and I watched some time, and he made a point about us not having the ethics, the protocol, or whatever, as the Jewish folks, is why we are not in the position they're in. He went through all the things that they do right and all the things that we do wrong. And my question to the brother would have been, well, I wonder why. If we're going to believe our history, and I believe our history, but if we're going to believe that we were the first in this, the first in that, the kid's going to bring you the information later on of how we've been the first in inventing most of the stuff. But if we're going to believe that, then what happened? We can't say 400 years just what happened. I can assume. You know, I'm not a psychiatrist or a clinician or anything like that, but I have common sense. Common sense tells me if you're under the gun for 400 years and not just enslaved, but have been stripped of all that you belong to you, your culture, your religion, your heritage, your language, all that, something is impacted in some way. You know, and of course you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out. You just have to be conscious and aware. And many of us are not, no fault of our own, because if you've been brain dead like that for that long, why would you necessarily? And that's one of the reasons I stressed the point, the title of my podcast. I'm an amateur looking for unapologetic. I'm an unapologetic amateur looking for experts in Africanism. And I make the analogy of the virus. When that virus came through, I remind you, none of us, after about 2 million people or more was killed behind it, I don't think many of us thought that we could go to just one person and ask for a solution. You know, even at that time, he was the most powerful man in the world because he was the president of the United States, and he came out with injecting bleach. So that right away told us we needed to find someone who had studied this stuff. So it's the same with us. If we use that as an example for what we went through, stripping and all, and if we say to ourselves, well, we can't just go find anybody, can't even a Clarence Thomas. We can't find just because they may be up there, got the degrees or whatever. You need someone who has studied specifically. And not just to study. As I said before, we got a lot of people now who have great studies going on. But what we need now, the same as with that virus, we need someone now who can create solutions, vaccines, if you will, for us to get through this. And what is going to take the same kind of concentration as it would take for any major catastrophe. You know, we are probably the only group of people that have gone through as much as we've gone through and expected just to be, get over it. That's what you hear a lot. Get over it. you know. And one of the things we use ourselves, and no fault of our own, we use the word, well, we are not monolithic. It's a big word, pretty fancy, but it doesn't say a whole lot, because if we are not monolithic, that means we are kind of thinking in about 50,000 different directions. We don't have to be monolithic to have a consensus. See, every other group, think about this now. You've heard of the different groups. They have their own little organizations that they go away yearly to try to figure out and come to some kind of consensus. The Europeans, the white folks got what is that? Birch Society and a couple of other ones. Then the Jewish friends have the B'nai Brit and a couple of other ones. What do we have? We are the ones that need to be able to go away and get some consensus, come back, and decide how we want to run things. But we will say we are not monolithic. Well, we're not. Then that what it shows is that we have not been in position to get some kind of concentration on one or two things that might be to our advantage. That's going to change too, because now we are learning. Those of us who can carry the information and be respected from your position, because I can't just listen to anyone talking about anything, which I know they have no knowledge of how to correct what has been done to us. And there's been things done to us. As a matter of fact, my 5th book was supposed to be Damaged Goods Made in America. Because we have to admit that we have been damaged. And until we admit that and know that we need the kind of concentration, the kind of care that any other major catastrophe would need, then we're going to always dismiss the idea that something is wrong with us other than what we've done ourselves. Now, that's kind of strange, right? We are the greatest people in the world from our history. We built the pyramids, we made the medicines, we did all this, we're the best scientists, greatest, but all of a sudden, 400 years down the road, and we're behind and everything? No. That doesn't even sound logical. So what I'm saying to you, I'll continue to bring this information to you so we can begin to rethink. And as I said before, I concentrated on this specifically when I started the podcast. But I know now that we got to have a two-pronged approach to what ails us now, because we can't just wait until we get our heads to get cleared. We got to work on that in addition to, as the brother said, a great ancestor Joe Madison, what you going to do about it now. We got to do things about it. Now what we got for you, we got the young folks who are going to be doing something. So see, this is what we got to do. We got to leave things for them, because that's what's been left with us. I'm working on my ancestors. What they have done, the path that they have laid for us, I'm working through that. So when we become ancestors, they'll have something to work through to get them further on. So we got the young folks now. We're going to bring the students on. The host from William ACAP is our brother, I call him Prince, Harleen Moss. What do you have for us, Harleen?
You want me to say it?
Yeah, you can begin.
Abari Ghani. I am Halim Moss, your host for my class today, Williams ACAP. We are bringing to you today history of our beloved homeland, Africa. I'm going to give you an idea of what that history looks like. In the vast African continent, a story of civilization unfolds, shaped by ancient cultures. Before it got the name Africa, this huge continent was home to lots of different people, like the Moors, Nubians, Carthaginians, and Ethiopians. But it was the Europeans who came up with the name Africa. And the Romans made it super popular when they took over parts of the continent. The word Africa actually comes from Greek and Latin words. In Latin, it means sunny and fertile, while in Greek, it means the spirit of horror. But guess what? Africa had lots of other names too, like Ortygia, Cathay, Libya, and Ethiopia. But what was its original name? Well, the indigenous people called it Alkebulan, which means Garden of Eden and Mother of Mankind. Now that's exciting just to know who you are. Now, my fellow classmates will give you the history of Africa's greatness. Now, I will turn it over to our instructor, Miss Moore.
Hello, Miss
Oh,
Moore.
hello, villagers. How is everybody this evening? I know that I'm excited. The children are ready. We have a great presentation today. It is a dedication to one of our founders of the homeschool we call Williams Okubalan Cultural Academy of Plainfield. William ACAP for short. The students will be conducting their presentations from what we now call Aunt Maymay's Den. That is our name. And from now on, we'll be presenting monthly a fantastic program to honor her legacy and dedication to our ancestors and to us as people. The young people are going to educate their own so that they can continue to carry the banner of how great a people we are. So they'll know, and others will know, everybody will know of what we are made of. So I just want everybody to get excited and get ready. And now I'm going to introduce our co host, Elijah. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Let him have it.
Medicine. Many treatments used today in modern medicine was first employed in Africa centuries ago. The first renowned surgery was performed in Egypt around 2700 BC. Medical procedures performed in ancient Africa before they were formed in Europe include vaccinations, autopsies, broken bone setting, skin grafting, brain surgery, fitting of dental cavity, installation of false teeth, what is known as cesarean section, anesthesia, and tissue cauterization. Although Hippocrates is considered by many to be the father of medicine, he is not the first doctor in history. That honor would fall to the ancient Egyptian scholar Imhotep. Born in 27th century BCE, Imhotep, not only a physician, but also an architect, astrologist, scribe, politician, and priest. Imhotep was the father of medicine. Although the step pyramid is considered his greatest achievement, he is also remembered for his medical treatise, where he considered that diseases and injuries are of natural origins rather than punishments sent by the gods or caused by spirits or curses. Imhotep was practicing medicine and writing on the subject more than 2,000 years ago, before Hippocrates was born. He was also believed to be the author of Edwin Smith Papyrus, an ancient Egyptian medical text that contains almost 100 anatomical terms and describes 48 injuries and their treatments. Thus, Egypt medicine, initiated by Imhotep, was the first to analyze the disease from a rational point of view, denouncing mythological explanations.
All right. See what we've done? Okay.
And now we have Chastity.
Mathematics. The invention of mathematics is placed firmly in African history. The oldest known possible math object is the Labono bone, which was discovered in the Labonia Mountains of Swaziland and dates approximately 35,000 BC. Many of the math concepts learned in schools today were also developed in Africa over 35,000 years ago. The ancient scripted textbooks about math that included division, multiplication, fractions, and geometry formulas to calculate area and volume of shapes.
Wow.
Yes.
And next we have Munchie.
International trade. Evidence shows that international trade was first developed between Africa and Asia. Businesses' international trade contacts were the exchange of ideas and cultural practices that laid the foundation of the earliest foundation of the ancient world.
Who's next?
Huh? Thanks. Art. The earliest known artwork in human history was discovered in South Africa. It consisted of 18 abstract designs and symbols.
Architecture and engineering. The African Empire of Egypt developed a vast area of diverse structures and great architectural monuments along the Nile. Amongst the largest and most impressive was the Great Pyramids of Giza and the Great Temples of Giza. Later in the 12th century, there were hundreds of great cities in Zimbabwe and Mozambique, made of massive stones complex and huge cable-like compounds. In the 13th century, the empires of Mali boosted impressive cities including Timbuktu and grand palaces, mosques, and universities. Mining and minerals. The oldest known mine cave of architectural architectural archaeological record record is the mine cave of Swaziland, which which shows to be about 43,000 years old. The ancient Egyptian mined minerals called malachite, while the gold mines of Nubia are the largest and most extensive in the world.
Very good. We're learning so much today. And next we have Chloe. Say hello, villagers.
Hello, villagers. Africa is a continent with a rich cultural heritage and a diverse range of writing systems from ancient scripts, like the hieroglyphic of Egypt, to modern scripts like the Mandomi script. Africa has the oldest writing system. Writing originated on the African continent in the Nile Valley. It is found that the origin of the first known writing comes from Nubia, present-day Sudan. While Egypt is sometimes credited with the origin of hieroglyphic, some historians declare that hieroglyphic was first discovered in Nubia and brought to Egypt, both countries in Africa. Africa's writing systems tell the story of the continent's people and their artistic achievements. Another reason for us to continue to study our history.
All right. Yeah, there's a good reason for you to study your history. Excellent.
We are learning so much today, our villagers. And next we have, name it. I mean, Chris.
No, we're done.
Next we have a presentation. Well, we were going to have a presentation. So we're going to turn it back over. Those are my babies.
Okay.
And I'd like everybody to encourage them. And we're going to turn it back over to Ruby.
Okay, all right. I tell you, you guys, was something I learned a lot already. I tell you, we're going to be doing a similar presentation each month. The end of the last Monday of each month, we'll be bringing the students on with some information that we all need to know from the homeland of Africa. I think this is their second presentation. The first presentation, if you remember, it from our ancestral beginning, which was good to know where we came from. And now this is a history of all some of the things that we did. From here forward, we'll be going some history of our place here in the Americas, but we can always bring you a little bit of history from the homeland of Africa, because that is where it is. That is our homeland. Now, what I'm going to do now is, I think what I did, I told you all my emphasis basically is on the restoration of us as African people to who we really are. And I know that's going to go through us reorienting ourselves to who we are, but first to know why we're in the position we are. We won't know what to do unless we know how we got to be where we are. I said it's the one word, stripping. There have been a lot of other folks who have been enslaved. There are people who have been devastated through other kind of catastrophes, but none that I have read of, and I want someone to correct me if they have, but I've not known any other group that has been stripped. Stripping is a unique circumstance in itself. I don't know who would have thought of it, but it was thought of, and we were stripped. So when we got over here, then they stole us, brought us across the Middle Passage, hoisted up on these slave blocks, sold us to the highest bidders, and then treated us so crudely and unfairly that I don't know if anyone else was treated that in that capacity, but more than that, they decided to strip of us everything that was dear to us, our culture, our language, our religion, our history, just everything. And in doing that, it created a different people, different, naturally so, different set of people. One of the things that encouraged me to write the book Verbal Healing, what I said with verbal healing, we must reject tired, trite, tasteless, and other nonsensical expressions that keep us damaged. If you haven't picked this book up, I would advise you to, not just because I wrote it, but it is a good book. Even I wrote this book, let me see when it was. Okay, it was printed initially 1996, and it's just as relevant today as it was then, and maybe even more relevant. So let me just read a few some of parts of the book to let you know what the book is all about. It says about this book, if anyone doubts the extent of damage that 400 years of racism and mind-altering through cultural and mental deprivation have had on all people of African descent, come to this reading with an open mind. And our government has never even seen the need to apologize for the sorrow it put us through. First, I will explain that my expertise is not in the field of psychoanalysis, but my African guts and the revelations I get from the Almighty shape what my pen puts to paper. Therefore, understanding the severe and sometimes indelible mark that racism has placed on our psyche, I am convinced, and I believe psychology bears me out, that it is twice as hard to undo what was done. For instance, black people have been programmed to accept that they are less than others. It will require more than a mere "no, you're not less" to reverse the damage. It may require one pulling the wool off the fact and exposing the naked truth. If the truth points toward Africa being the cradle of civilization, Imhotep being the father of science, and Africans being the chosen people of God, then this book will go there. African mothers have been programmed to rush to the nursery to see what color the baby's ears are and to see what texture of hair the baby has on its head before any injury to the health of the child. It may require that we adjust our damaged psyche, by any means necessary, to bring it around from that sick, pathetic, neurotic state to a more natural state. If I have to destroy some myths, that myth is that white is might, to build up truth, black is the genesis of mankind, this book will go there also. If our celebrities, politicians, and educators have been programmed to be unabashed sellouts, then this book must serve to remind them that. The wages of sin is death, and although our community have not been as exact as others, there will come a time when that may be the only option. Further, if young African youth have been programmed to accept blame for the condition they are in, then I know that this book must be bold enough to speak truth to power and spell out how far the tentacles of 400 plus years of slavery, white supremacy, Jim Crowism, and racism can reach before one is eradicated of the vestiges of such diabolical evil, particularly when there has never been any attempt to address the evils. Moreover, those evils are still strong and pervasive in this society. And if we as a community don't demand an immediate solution, I predict this century will produce even more of the aforementioned. And of course, it has produced. You see what has happened since this book was written. This was book 19. What did I tell you? It was first copyright 1996, and we are still going through. We're going through even more today because what we're going through over the last 6 months has been unlike anything we've really ever been through. We've been through a lot now. Been through a lot of stuff. But this is something so uniquely different that I think it must have caught a lot of people by surprise. One of the things we need to do, and need to do it clearly, someone said, change comes when truth is spoken out loud. We can't, there's a pre-existing condition in our community. I'm from the silent generation. So I'm back from most where you all haven't been. So there was a time we were not allowed to speak the truth even when we knew the truth. So that's a pre-existing condition we have. And we still have it. Sometimes we don't even want to, we know the truth. We won't say Trump stole the election for whatever reason. It's not widely said. But common sense, again, I don't have to be a rocket scientist to tell me that if a person was under the condition of the gun, as you will, that he was looking at jail time. He was looking at a lot of his money being taken from him. And he had all the elements to go forward with stealing it. He had the richest man in the world. He had the KGB who had all the knowledge of how to, the espionage thing. And he had the majority of folks in this country who are racist, white folk, that voted for him. Now, I understand that maybe some of us didn't vote. Some of us voted wrongly. Maybe some of the Hispanic folk. But it wasn't that amount. We just love to point fingers at ourselves when things go wrong. That's part of the system that we've been brought up under. So we'll say that, no, we didn't vote, rather than saying he stole the election, because if we don't declare that he stole the election, he's going to be in that office for as long as he wants to, because he know that we won't challenge anything. So he said already that he want to make it he want to continue the presidency for at least 3 terms. And he will, because if we can't correct him on stealing it, who's going to say he did anything to maintain himself in office? Because from what I gather, there's a few things he can do. One is start a war. That would allow him to maintain. So he just may do that. But truth, again, I do go back to dear ancestor, Dr. Martin Luther King, when he said, truth crushed to the earth will rise again, of course. So we just have to kind of believe that and realize that we just got to come with the truth. I'm going to go through some of my book here that I got the opportunity to do it because I think it's so apropos. We know that we are making statements, and we've always made statements about ourselves that just have not been correct. We didn't know that, we in my book here, Verbal Healing, we must reject tired, trite, tasteless, and other nonsensical expressions that keep us damaged. I have a series of books you could just pick up at your leisure and just read them because they got so much in them. The first ones I got here, I'm just going to read off some of them for you. Cultural Bandit by Dale Jones. Interesting book. This is Black History Month. That brings me into a good conversation here. This is June is not Black History. June is Black Music Month, I meant to say. Now, that's a subject, too, that we sometime overlook and don't realize how important it is. But the music was basically, all music was generated from us, the enslaved people here in this country, starting off with the blues and on and on and on. All of the music, all of the genre of music came from that. Now, they classified it to their will, white folks did, who controlled everything. So they classified it, and then that they stole and reclassified it to fit their agenda. The same as like country music. That's why there was such an uproar when, what's her name? The young lady who made the country song. Can't think of her name right now. The biggest star in the galaxy right now. Can't think of her name. But anyway, she made the country song. What was Beyonce? Thank you, babe. She made the country song, and they claimed it theirs. But they don't know it was. They were ignorant too, you know. They didn't know that all that music came through our music. You know, we was doing much of what they taken and stolen from us forever. And there's another book called Stolen Legacy. See, it talks about that. So get these books, Cultural Bandit, Stolen Legacy. Talks about the steal. And there's a book, The Journey of the Songhai People. You remember I said to you about we are, like to say that we are not monolithic? In that book, it tells you, well, if you're not monolithic, you're thinking in a 50,000 different directions. Maybe we need to go someplace, get some consensus, and then come back, you know, to try to meet our obligation. This book by the Robinsons, The Journey of the Songhai People. And here's another must book to read on the subject of evolved hair. It's a Black Hair by Kamal and Janice Kenyatta. And it's one of the most fascinating books I've read on black hair. The Kenyatta says, African hair is unique. It has no equal on the planet, and black people do not like it. This is because we were systematically taught to hate our own hair, while at the same time we were taught to love and admire the hair of white people, straight hair. So that's the book. Get that one. It's called Black Hair. Okay. On another page, I say, telling us that black skin was unattractive when they knew all along people were literally killed for the melanin, you know. And then, of course, there's a book called, another book, The ISIS Papers, by Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. That book is, she was a former Harvard University psychologist, professor, as saying, she said, skin pigmentation is normal for humans. The Europeans, upon coming into contact with pigmented people, recognized their abnormality. They therefore projected their own feelings of inferiority onto the people they really regarded as superior. So that's why you got to get the books and got to get the information. Now, another book I have in my the booklet here, it says, telling us that we were savages, when their history and present is replete with savagery. You know, let us make a slave. There's a book out called Let Us Make a Slave, and that's what they did, you know, or that's what they attempted to do. Now here's another book called The Black Holocaust by Dale Jones. Lawrence Thomas, professor of psychology at Syracuse University, explained in an article he wrote entitled, Next Life, I Will Be White. He says, when it comes to evil on a grand scale, black men do not hold a candle to white. But notwithstanding this painfully obvious and, I should say, embarrassing truth, not only do white males generally regard themselves as morally superior to all others, moreover, whites generally regard white males in this way. If white people generally think white men are morally superior, given the moral track record of white men, it is simply unimaginable what white people would think of if this uninvisible record were held by the male of another ethnic group. And I make that point sometime. And it is one that we really got to consider. It's no take on anyone, it's just the truth. I look at the actions of white men, and I say that because we're looking at people like Trump and all those folks that are in control of our bodies now, control of everything, control of our lives. And they act differently from any other group of men that you have read about or been in contact with. And I wonder why. One of the reasons some months back I wrote my white sisters, I say, my dear white sisters, what's wrong with your men? And maybe that is something that they're going to have to take a real look at themselves. Because not only were we as a people were mistreated and in ways that unimaginable, but some of their own women were, you know. So they're going to have to take a look at that and try to figure out, is there something that needs to be done outside of what is done with other folk? Because the bottom line is something is wrong. When you got a group of people like Trump and the ones that he has under him now controlling other folks the way they're doing and in such vile ways, got to be something wrong. You know, there's no doubt about it. And there's another book I want you to pick up. Like I said, I put quite a few of them in this book. So The Secret, okay, this is not the one of the things. There's another one I wanted you to put up. But you must pick this book up because what it does is it just educate, but it reinforces what I try to bring to you all each time I'm here, that we are not the folks that we see now after 400 years of genocide, I call it, because it's not enslavement. If we enslavement, we missed the point. We were stripped, unlike anyone else, so ours got to be considered more serious, you know. In my book here, I talk about African religion and philosophy. Then there's a book about the Husia, you know, telling us that Africa was a heathen nation. I say here, when there is no contest that Africans are the most God-fearing people, bar none. African history shows that Africans are consummate spiritualists who make God, the creator, the center of all things. John P. Mbita, in his book, Africa, Religion and Philosophy, states, religion permeates into all the departments of life so fully that it is not easy or possible always to isolate it. He further states, wherever the African is, there is his religion. He carries it to the fields where he is sowing seeds or harvesting a new crop. He takes it with him to the beer party or to attend a funeral ceremony. And if he is educated, he takes religion with him to the examination room at school or in the university. If he is a politician, he takes it to the House of Parliament, which all adds up to a divinely spiritual being. Now, Dr. Jacob L. H. Karatha, in his foreword to Dr. Malana Karanga's book, Husia, states, throughout the period, there has been a strong appreciation for the highly developed spirituality of the black people of the Nile Valley, whom we call the ancient Egyptians. So dominant was this aspect of the greatest civilization of antiquity that Martin Delaney, writing in the 19th century, proclaimed that the governmental system of ancient Egypt was a religious polity. Of less scholarship but keenly perceptive is a New York City white radio commentator who noted some time ago that in all things black folk put God first. That is, thanking him for awards, achievements, etc. Well, white folk seldom acknowledges him for anything. Now, if you notice, even the most notoriously ungodly white person will proclaim the name of the Lord, and because they control the media, misinformed people could easily believe that they are insincere. Typical of how they have always usurped, stolen, and copied our every actions, whether it be music, fashion, style, language, and now attempt to undermine our spirituality to claim it as their own. And that reminds me of these evangelicals now. The things that they are doing so anti-Christian, but they are the one recognized more than anyone. Never fear, however, that they can take our spirituality, and they need not fake it because God knows all hearts. Okay, and my part of my book say telling us these are the things that we heard. See, when I wrote this book, I'm putting these things down for us to hear them again. These are things that people tell us. We believe them over time because we be brainwashed, telling us that we don't have the capacity to love. You know, they always question our relationship with each other when we know nothing but love. Many of us still love our oppressor. We still love our oppressor. Certainly, if we can love our most despicable enemy, there should be no question of our capacity to love anyone. The question should be, how could we? Prior to the deliberate infiltration of drugs in our communities, there was seldom any reports of black inflicting pains on each other. Black love is legendary. Commit yourself to reading books by Dr. Ben Jacquemin, Dr. Chikan Diop, Dr. Chancellor Williams, Dr. Israel Tribble Jr., Hassan Salim, Dr. Jawana Kenjufa, and other blacks that are listed in this book that I wrote. Yeah. So there are many things that we got to study, got to rethink, got to get our minds back to believing what we have heard, may not have read. We were not allowed to read for a minute there. You know, it was against the law for us to even know how to read. But our ancestors somehow made it clear to us, in many cases, who we were, because they did not accept what we were told. They knew who we were, and it took a lot of serious carrying on to undo what we knew. But over time, over 400 years, actually going to come some success. But even with that, many of us was able to maintain some kind of understanding of who we were and how we got to where we are now. So I would appreciate it. I'm going to use this. This is kind of funny. I have in here, we all heard this, CP time, colored people time. You know, we take that as and seriously, those of us who know better take it with a grain of salt. So let me just read something about CP time. If you ever heard that statement made, say, if we accept CP, colored people time, as a pejorative or negative, then we have bought into the notion that our culture is inferior. John S. Mbita says in his book, African Religions and Philosophy, in Western or technological society, time is a commodity which must be utilized, sold, and bought. But in traditional African life, time has to be created or produced. Man is not a slave of time. Instead, he makes as much time as he wants. This explanation of Mr. Mbita and other learned African scholars suggests to me that the concept of time in any society is culture. If so, then culture defines time. Therefore, each culture group has a different understanding of time, and whoever controls the situation defines the situation. Since Western society seems to control the situation throughout the world, that society tries to force every other culture group to conform to other concept of time, which in many cases is totally alien to another's understanding. Hopefully, this will explain why we are catching so much hell trying to conform to their sense of time. Our very nature, our very essence, even if we are not cognizant of our African culture, keeps us connected with our African culture. Some traits cannot be taken out of us, although they try. See, I told you about the stripping. We're trying to strip everything away from us, but in spite of it, couldn't. Even if we have not been taught the reason for what we do, some things are done naturally so. The mere fact that we are born Africans gives us a certain rhythm that's happening. You don't know why you're doing it, but you just do it. It is extremely important that we understand these nuances which declare one culture valid and the others invalid. Geographical location does not totally change your cultural identity because theirs have not been stripped from them. No matter where Europeans go in the world, they take their cultural identity with them. Those are the facts. However, Brother Hussein Salim says the reason behind these facts are environmentally, the Africans could afford to be more flexible with time because being in a climate that was conducive for cultivating and planting all year. This has been an exciting time for me because we are just trying to get things in order, if you will. So we will be bringing you information that we feel you need to for us to move in a way that's going to bring us through these trying times. Because they are trying times. We know we do have, we are people who have survived a lot of things. And maybe some would say worse times. Um, but in spite of it all, we survive. And not only survive, we thrive through whatever. That's the uniqueness of us as people. We got to hold on to that. But at the same time, we got to continue to move forward. And as the brother said, what we're going to do about whatever situation we're in. Again, I want to appreciate my young folk who came out, the students at Williams ACAP. They did a marvelous job. I'm so proud of them, all of them, and they will be studying. I don't know what they'll be bringing for you next month, but I can assure you it will be something worthwhile to listen for. So I want all of you out there, my villagers. I appreciate you. Norm, do we have anyone that I need to you could bring up for a minute? I have a few minutes here. I want to say, oh my goodness, I have such a crew here. That's good. Lord Chavez, I'm watching. Robert Carrishock on deck family. And Chester High greeting family. Juanita McClure. Okay, all right. Betty Jones, she's watching. Betty, so proud of you and your students. Sharon on the building. And Chester, beautiful. Rashida and Chester. Sheila. Oh my goodness, I so appreciate all of you. You Joy Jackson. Okay. I appreciate you. Joe, let me see what Juanita said. Joy Jackson. Okay, let me see. Okay, back up a little bit. Let me just see. She said something. So great. Chastity Proud, Hakeem and Abby, Nana, all of my beautiful children, Coley, Auntie Bootsy learned something. She said she learned something today from you guys. Okay, so that's what we did. Joy Jackson, all the way from California. I'm so proud of you. I appreciate you coming on, keeping us watching what we're trying to do, and trying to get our children to carry on from where we will leave off at some point. Okay, I want to say bless you all. Be sure to watch next week. Going to have great guests next week. Can't tell you who it is right now, but we definitely will. And for this, I will say to my villagers, keep the faith and always think what we're going to do about what the situation we're in. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Ruby, can I use the bathroom quick?